Jake Kulkowski, we're going to talk about They Are Billions today.
Yes.
You and me, Mike Williams. They Are Billions, there's a lot of buzz around this game. It's a kind of real-time strategy game that's entered early access in December, just before Christmas. It already has got a following on Twitch. As people are talking about it. It's doing really well in the charts. It's currently top of the Humble Bundle store when you sort by bestsellers. It's like been in the top 3 for sales on Steam and stuff like that. It's doing well. And it's basically just a strategy game where you defend against the horde of zombies. It's an incredibly simple premise when you think about it.
Yes.
It's a real-time strategy developed by Numantian Games, who describe the game as a hardcore RTS, and we'll get onto that in a minute. They've only made one game before, Lords of Zulima, inspired by real old school.
That's Zulima with an X.
Yeah,
I played that.
And that's kind of like Ultima,
yeah.
That's it, Might and Magic, that kind of stuff, right? And the game, but this game is very much inspired by Age of Empires. They Are Billions, very much inspired by Age of Empires.
You can tell.
Yeah, it looks the part, it plays the part. It's got all them kind of real old school RTS sensibilities, and players have to build and defend the colony in a world filled with zombies, right? It's just the whole map.
They're not joking.
They're not. They are everywhere. You'll just kind of be roaming along, and you'll think that there's a fog of war in place, so you can't see ahead like you would in Age of Empires. But then you might just stumble across a massive horde of zombies, and you'll just have to hightail it out of there. The current state of the game is in early access. The full game is going to have 2 modes, right? Survival.
Right. Oh, okay.
And campaign. So survival is what you can.
What you're playing now, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Fully playable in early access. That, I'm imagining, is how it will appear in the full game in that case. So they said they're going to keep working on it and stuff, obviously, and iterate it based on player feedback. Survival puts you in a randomly generated world full of zombies. The aim of the game is to keep your settlement alive as long as possible. Each randomly generated world is it feels pretty different every time. I mean, each world's got its own kind of dynamic events, weather, geography, and infected population. And there's the zombies, then there's like super zombies.
Yeah, there's ones that can run, there's ones that can just walk and things like that. Yeah,
they're pretty bog standard really, but when you have it in a game like this, you have to do different things about it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a big bloaty kind of one, there's a big fast running
all the zombie tropes that you kind of just know how to handle from experience of the many other zombie games you would have no doubt played. So we don't normally cover early access games on the channel, to be honest, unless something really catches our eye. And
like
this has, it's something nice about it. Like you say about the procedurally generated maps, I was just playing it for like an hour and a half before we came in here as well. I've started it 2 or 3 times just to have a look at if the maps are truly different. And they were really different every time. So
they put you in different situations. Sometimes you'll be in a really nice defendable location. I've played it for a few hours, and they put you sometimes you'll be in a great starting position. You'll be like, oh, this is perfect, and you'll already have an idea where to put your walls and stuff like that. Sometimes it really puts you like right next to kind of a settlement of zombies that's just terrifying. The first time you see it, you're like, oh my god, what's that? Buildings. And just loads of zombies.
Zombie forts, that's what happens.
Yeah, it's scary stuff, man. They do expect to finish the campaign by the spring of this year, and that's their kind of loose release date for it. So it's in early access now. It's a brief early access period, which you always like to see, kind of 3 or 4 months if they hit their calendar kind of thing. And the game will come out in spring this year, which is lovely. So our first impressions are pretty warm, right? I mean, I played it before the weekend, and I was like, this is good. And I just read a kind of preview in Rock Paper Shotgun, and that was my first encounter with it at all. First I'd heard of it, and it was pretty positive. And it was about turtling in Age of Empires, or was it PC Gamer? I can't remember. But it was about turtling, and it was like that's what I love doing in Age of Empires. I like just building myself up and defending myself. I'm not the kind of StarCraft player who's like macros and actions per minute and kind of just trying to remember build orders and stuff. I just like making my bases look nice and hoping they don't get destroyed.
I think a lot of old school RTS players do that, and then they kind of forget at the end. Oh the whole point is me to destroy.
But it's the people who prefer total annihilation to Command and Conquer. People who think that Total Annihilation is secretly the best strategy game. Classic, not Command and Conquer, right? And it's a different kind of mindset, and this is what this game serves.
Especially compared to like StarCraft. That's the RTS that I've got the most experience in. Played it online like a lot.
You're quite competitive, right?
That's right. Not. I mean, there's going to be loads of people listening who are like way better, but just got to Gold League, didn't I? Do you know what I mean? For me, that's good, guys, because I don't normally bother with like anything competitive.
No, same.
And having to play it a lot to get ranked is something for me.
It requires commitment, right?
Yeah, exactly. So StarCraft's a bit different in this kind of game.
Very much so.
This game sets itself apart in a very clever way because loads of RTS games end up, let's say it's a one-on-one, for example, you build up your base and eventually you've got to do a base trade. Maybe you've got multiple bases, but when you're going all in on their base, a lot of the time they're going all in on your base, and so it ends up culminating in a huge battle towards the end of a 20-minute session.
Yeah.
Whereas this has like these tower defense elements where the enemy isn't in one particular place, they're a vast horde of zombies spread all around the map who will attack you in little chunks. There will be moments where it will alert you that there's a horde coming towards you, but for the most part, it might just be like there's one sole zombie knocking on your wall that if you've built a wall, that is. It ends up being a bit like an art of your tower defense and expansion. So it's great for like you're saying, like a turtle mindset. Don't worry about going on the offensive. You're playing defensive really here, aren't you? And I think that's really, really nice. Very different than StarCraft, where if you want to get the edge, you're going to have to be scouting, you're going to have to be offensive. There'll be times where you're playing defensive, but for the most part, like I used to play Zerg, so if you're a StarCraft player, you'll know what I'm on about. You have to kind of be constantly whittling away, and you can't really play slow against like Protoss or Terran or whatever. Yeah,
and it just kind of talking as Zerg, I guess, it's still, although it's defensive, it still really, really satisfies that thing of just a wall of enemies coming at you, and you've got your own wall of like your own army that you've built up, and you just send them out against the zombies to kind of, and it has this huge clash of armies thing that just hasn't been happening in games in real-time strategy that really satisfies me enough, like StarCraft, because there's like, the different rushes and stuff, and the different strategies of like sending people to scouts to the base, and all these different kind of underhanded subterfuge things that are really efficient and not about the spectacle of like armies crashing into each other.
Exactly.
And this game does give you that in a way that a lot of games just don't, right?
Yeah, that's most of the time. Obviously, it's a strategy game, so the strategy for a lot of modern RTS games is to prevent a giant battle happening, isn't it?
Exactly,
like you're saying,
because it's not efficient.
Exactly, so you get into the resources and things like that. The zombies, they are their own resource. They just want to eat brains. Exactly. So this is very combat focused as well as being defensive. So it manages to whatever RTS player you are, you'll find something here for you, to be honest.
Definitely, right. So let's jump into the game's description. Okay, so the description says they are billions as a game set in a distant future, which surprised me, to be honest, because I thought it was kind of steampunky, and that's how it looks, right?
Yeah.
About building and managing human colonies after a zombie apocalypse destroyed almost all of humankind. Now, the devs built their own engine for this game. It can handle 20,000 zombies, which is there just as a soft cap to make sure that all the computers can kind of cope with it. Okay. Little fun fact as well: they tried building the game using the widely used Unity game engine, but it could only manage about 400 zombies before slowing down dramatically. So that's a little something I thought was a bit interesting there. So 20,000 zombies.
20,000 from 400 is a big percentage.
It is. It definitely is, man. And the game does kind of set out to be hard as well. So the developers themselves call it a hardcore.
That's
RTS.
right. Yeah, you were saying that at the beginning, and I was thinking hardcore RTS. That's a bold statement, because there's a lot of hardcore RTS fans.
Yeah, which you'd say StarCraft, and that when you hit that league, it's accessible. StarCraft, like it's great, it's very playable, but it is like the most hardcore because it's the most fucking professionally played one. It's the esports RTS. That's hardcore, right?
Yeah, exactly. So to call yourself a hardcore RTS, you're really giving people an expectation of yourself that you've got to match up to, or should be laughed at. So it's a real-time strategy, but that is optional, isn't it?
Well, this is huge. You can pause the action.
Yeah.
Like in Total War.
Yeah.
So
I didn't actually know that.
Well, here we go. Right. So they've said that it's hardcore, but that's because it's thematically, right. So one of the inspirations of the game is that scene in World War Z, right, where the fortified city of Jerusalem is just overcome by zombies. The zombies are like piling up against the wall, and they just like they're in there. The Jerusalem is falling.
Total Swarm.
And that's kind of what Total Swarm. That's a Total War game. That's anyway. That's thematically what they want. That's why it's hard. They want you to feel under siege, right? So it's like that kind of Dark Souls mentality, I suppose.
Yeah.
But that said, the developer also doesn't want to be like StarCraft and like these modern RTSs. So here's a quote from him, okay? Here's a quote from designer Jesus Arribas. You're speaking to Glixel. In They Are Billions, you can manage a colony with thousands of citizens, hundreds of buildings, and an army as big as you can create to face the threat of 20,000 zombies, all in a seamless and fluid game experience. Now, here's the important bit. That is what we missed more from more recent RTSs that seem to be too dependent on the player's performance or the player's skill to memorize and frantically execute dozens of key commands. So they're not trying to be that kind of hardcore. This is like old school hardcore. They want to go back to that build up and you know, it's build up your base and attack the other player in a certain way, not like that competitive, almost professional kind of hardcore, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense. I think a lot of RTSs have gone down this tactical route where it's kind of like doing more with less. Like, you've only got 20 units at a time, so you need to make sure you've got 5 anti-air, 5 anti-infantry. You know, and so, I mean, for a strategy game to have tactics in it, that makes sense. But yeah, a lot of people miss, like, building your, like Age of Empires, and you just get a shitload of woodcut huts. You know, you could do a lot of stuff like that. Yeah. And it's something, like, take that, remember when Dawn of War came out last year, and that was advertised as an RTS, and then people found it was quite squadron-based. A lot of them seem to be going towards, I don't want to say squads, but like smaller groups of,
and that obsession with rock paper scissors, like what beats what and what does that beat, and that kind of you know,
what beats zombies, just brute force, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And that's how the game has a lot of fun. So there's like flamethrower units, and there's like heavier kind of shotgun-y wielding kind of units that are heavy, but they're loud and emit, you know, and they're slow firing, but you've also got and slow moving. But then you've got light rangers who fire arrows, but the arrows don't do as much damage. And
they're silent, so they don't attract the hordes.
Yeah, so they're great for like scouting out and things like that. Yeah. So it just has fun with that, and I think as well it really does satisfy that building up and turtling mentality, because there are games like you're talking about settlement builders and stuff earlier, like Northgard, right? Well, the Stronghold series is a game that I play a lot, and that's because you can play that game without enemies and you can just build a great castle, or even if there are enemies, you still have to build a great castle and kind of defend yourself. That is as important as kind of attacking, and it's all about building up. And so there's I love how what it's shooting for. I really enjoy the fact that it wants you to stay alive as long as you can and not worry about the overwhelming. You're gonna die. You've got to do whatever you can to fight that as much as you can. But there's 20,000 enemies out there to begin with, so it's like
exactly to begin with being a key point, because they can convert your structures and stuff, as well as your units, because everyone knows how zombies work, right? They convert and infect people, right? So it's interesting because you kind of already know what you're going into when you hear zombies, but it does it in a way that's not done to death. And it's not like we're the only people that's seeing something special in this, because like you were saying, this has got a huge following on Twitch already, and you know, Twitch can launch these early access careers, Battlegrounds last year. It's a phenomenon, and this has really captured the imagination. I'm always a little bit skeptical of RTS games because I hear that they can get oversaturated on PC, and I don't want to feel it. I don't want to feel bored of RTS games, so I try and play them selectively. But this was a great shout, and it's really interesting. Graphical style as well stands out. Something about it.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's really nice to look at, and it does that bleak zombie thing while still being. It's got personality, like definitely, right? And I'm really looking forward to the campaign, because this is the kind of thing they've talked about for the campaign, like having personality in the campaign, and I'm interested to see the kind of scenarios that they can offer you. And I think you know, like you said, seeing something special in it. That's exactly the how I would put it myself as well. And I think there's like a secret sauce here, and it is the turtling mentality. It is the way the game is built from a protectionist kind of point of view. Like you have to look after yourself rather than you have to take down the enemy base as quickly as possible. That's not there.
Exactly.
And here's a nice little quote as well from Mr. Arribas that he also gave to Glixel.
Okay.
I'm probably butchering his name there, I'm so sorry. Here's what he said. There is a guilty pleasure in watching a horde of infected annihilating a colony that took someone hours of game to build in seconds. Just wait and see how you feel when it's your colony being crushed. And I kind of know what he means, because I played a couple of games through, and I got in the second time round, I was pretty pleased with how far I got. And then when my colony eventually fell, I was like, I'm fucked here. I'm dead. Like they've got through, and I was just watching it unfold, and they were just like sweeping through my colony, and my
like
people were screaming.
Like a kid on the beach with a sandcastle.
Yeah, and the tide's coming in, it was just something weirdly like a lava lamp effect, and I was just like, wow, that's a lot of
like watching dominoes for you.
Yeah, and so that's totally totally right. That's totally right. There is something special about this game for sure. And I think another thing that is as well is that it might actually be hitting a kind of new generation of people who missed the glory days of RTS as they're clearly shooting for.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they didn't, you know, they didn't have like Age of Empires and Command and Conquer and whatever, and they didn't have what this game is trying to recreate in a different and interesting and new way with zombies. I mean, that's the thing. It's how done to death is zombies. Yet this is doing something interesting with it.
Gets that complete balance of making people who remember it feel nostalgic, and people that don't remember it makes them feel like it's fresh. That's a great thing to hit.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, it's also enjoyable to watch. Despite it being quite slow-paced and turtly, people are tuning in. Thousands of people watching this on Twitch because it's got this quality to it. I'm interested to see how you play it. That's the thing. I haven't looked at anything on this game, gameplay-wise, other than my experiences.
Yeah.
Because I just wanted to have a clean mind going into this video. But I immediately want to see your style.
Yeah, see how other people
do. Do you use more rangers? Do you use more sword? You know, it's the same as Battlegrounds. Like even though it's your own very personal way of playing the game, you want to see how other people play it. You want to see. Maybe you can pick some stuff up to use your way. It's not set in stone.
The random generation as well.
Yes, totally helps because you'll be wanting to watch people that might have got really lucky or really unlucky. How are they going to get out of this situation?
Yeah.
It adds a little bit of drama to an already drama-filled and zombie-filled world.
Very much so. So there you go. They Are Billions. It's in early access on PC. Costs about £20 or $25 on Steam, Humble, so on. Dev say the price will go up when the full game comes out, but they don't know how much by how much yet, so they haven't settled on that. The full version should be out sometime in spring 2018. Thanks for listening. See you next time.
Bye.
Yes. You call that a plan? Gotcha. Sure. Yeah. Is that all? Great.